Hi there, it's Scott Dikkers on the How to Write Funny YouTube channel and on Facebook and on Twitch. Coming at you live to answer some comedy writing questions that people sent in. Just some random questions that all fell in the general category of how do I write? How do I write in this particular circumstance? So I'm going to go through these questions and try to answer them. Hi, Scott. I've started a daily writing exercise for 30 minutes a day, talking about what's happened in my life recently and ideas for bits. That's been about a measly 6 days in a row now. Okay, so that's great. That's all great. That's what I recommend. Write every day, and 30 minutes a day is great. The letter goes on. But I enjoy creating a new habit. Helps get the bare minimum out of the way in the morning and some ideas thrown against the wall. I agree. I've been finding a few of your podcasts quite useful and thinking of ways to apply it to my writing. My challenges I'm facing now are going from strong premises into punchlines. I have tons of good premises. I'm just struggling with how to deepen the bit into a story because naturally I want to tell a story in chronological order instead of by subject. I didn't know this was such a small page considering how darn useful I found you. Okay, so thank you very much for that question and thanks for the good word and the compliments. That's where the rubber meets the road. That's the hardest part of comedy writing, is turning good concepts into punchlines. So most people can come up with good concepts. Concepts are often just subject matter. Like we all have subject matter that we want to talk about. A really good concept is something that has a joke hook. So it's like you have a subject matter, but you have some kind of funny filter attached to it. You have an analogy. I'll give you an example. So the Supreme Court leaked a document this week that they're going to overturn Roe v. Wade. Huge news. And that's a topic. That's a subject. I want to do some material on the Roe v. Wade Supreme Court thing. So I'm in this situation. I'm going to do that this week. So this is a real example. If it were a really strong concept, I would have some sort of joke angle. So I think I have a joke angle. My joke angle is I don't understand what the fuss is about. The Supreme Court is moving in the wrong direction. They should allow abortions up to 8 years. So a woman is permitted to kill her child under 8 because kids under 8 are fucking annoying. So that's an angle on that idea. So now you have a strong concept, and I'm not saying that's strong, it's just an example of a concept, may not work at all. But here's how you test that. If you have a concept like that that has a joke connected to it, and I'll give you another example. So let's say you have an analogy connected with the abortion issue. Let's say your analogy is when animals in nature can't take care of their young, they eat them. It's a common thing that happens. So there's an analogy. Depending on your comic persona, maybe you could work that into a joke about Roe v. Wade. Now you have something. So you have an angle on a joke. How do you write a punchline? Again, that's where the rubber meets the road. It's the hardest part of writing comedy. What you have to do is you have to sit down and you have to start writing. Try something. It may not work. Try writing a sentence that communicates that concept. Try writing another one, totally different. Free associate, just keep writing. That's how you're going to come up with a punchline. Now, there are tools you can use. You can go through all the tips in How to Write Funny. And by the way, I'm working on a project where I'm organizing all the tips from all the books, plus all the tips I've put out on YouTube tip videos, and a few new additional tips and some tips that are in like a freebie that's hard to find about stand-up. I'm going to put them all in one document. So it's going to be 99 comedy tips. Excited about it. That's going to be out in a couple of weeks. But go through those tips from, let's say you have the book, How to Write Funny. Excuse me. Go through those tips. Excuse me. And use them to craft a joke. Tips like put the funny part last. Tips like keep it simple. tips like one impossible thing at a time. Use those to help you construct a sentence that will come across as funny. Then use the funny filters. You have 11 funny filters at your disposal. How can you use irony to communicate this concept? How can you use character? How can you use hyperbole? How can you use madcap? Go through all 11 of the funny filters and keep writing, keep free associating. It takes me usually 2 or 3 paragraphs before I've written something that I recognize as a funny joke. It may take you longer, may take you less time. I've been doing this for a long time, 20, 30 years. So maybe it comes more easily to me, but that's how you do it. That's where the rubber meets the road. And once you have that joke, then obviously you need to test it. You need to tell it to someone, put it on Twitter, get some kind of feedback, get some kind of reaction to it so you know it can work. Or if you're really bold, just try it on stage first thing. I would try it on Twitter at least before you go on stage with it, but that's just me. So I hope that helps. On to my second question of 3. It's finals week here in my high school, and your email slipped through the cracks, but was caught by my spam filter. Well, that's lovely. I'm about to begin teaching an elective class on comedy writing. So this is a high school teacher, not a high school student, and have been scouring the internet for resources on the subject. Naturally, found your stuff. Well, that's great. Wonderful. The goal is to found a student publication and maybe put on a review. But the biggest challenge I'm currently facing is keeping perspective and not getting too ambitious to start. If a blank page is the single scariest thing for a writer, the second biggest thing would have to be filling dozens of blank pages for a magazine. So I get what you're saying there. How do you keep your perspective when you have this enormous task at hand? That's a tough one. If it's the first time you've ever done comedy, I can understand that would be very daunting. I wouldn't recommend. It's almost like taking somebody who's never done any exercise and saying, you're going to do the Ironman triathlon. It's really good to start slow. So if your goal is to ultimately found a student publication, maybe you should start by having, students in your class write a humorous article for the existing school newspaper or publication, if there is one, or even just for the class, one at a time, small steps, baby steps. That goes well. You get a lot of people doing it. You start to feel good about it. You get comfortable with it. Then maybe ramp things up and talk about maybe doing a weekly publication that you distribute in the school, or a website that you don't have to do every week. You could just upload something whenever you have it. And then a review, obviously that's even bigger. That's a whole production. I would start small and I would go step by step and make sure you're comfortable along the way. Because if you bite off more than you can chew, you literally are biting off more than you can chew. And I hope that is helpful to you. Last question of 3. So you dedicate some time each day to coming up with 10 jokes or ideas, which adds up very quickly. At what point do you put the brakes on incoming ideas that you'll never get to and instead dedicate time to refining the raw ideas you already have? If you do 7 days of new ideas, do you give yourself 4 days after that to refine and rewrite? 7 days? What's a good ratio? Or should you be doing that later on after your idea brainstorming session? All right, excellent question. This is something I talk about all the time. I tell my students this. I put it in my books. Highly recommend you try to write 10 funny ideas every day if you want to be in comedy. It's how you build a vault of comedy material that you can use for anything in the future. I would consider that to be like your daily exercise, and I would always do it. I wouldn't stop and use that time to go through the ideas and refine them. I would keep doing the 10 ideas a day, and then I would refine them later at a different time, at night, later in the day, right after, whatever you want to do. Maybe every week, go through your list of 70 and decide which ones are worth pursuing, which ones could be expanded into an article, a bit, a longer piece, a story, a book, a movie script, whatever, a TV pilot, whatever you want it to be. That would be my recommendation. Now, in reality, everybody's different. And we all kind of have to find our groove. We have to find what works for us. Here's what I do. I go through periods where I do the 10 ideas a day, but then I go through periods where I don't do the 10 ideas a day. I always try to and I always want to, but something always comes up. I'm too busy. If I'm too busy writing something or producing something that is a project that is in the pipeline and it's going to get released, that takes precedence for me over the 10 ideas. So if I don't have time to do the 10 ideas, at least I'm still writing. At least I'm still producing work that is slated to go out there. What I would avoid is not doing the 10 ideas a day just because you don't feel like it, or you're lazy, or you don't feel funny. Like, that's the worst thing. That's the worst time to not do them. The best time to do them is when you're not feeling funny, because it should be painful and it should be like wrenching these ideas out of your brain when you don't feel like it. That's like, lifting weights when you're tired. You push yourself. That's how you grow. So train your brain to always be thinking of funny ideas, even when you don't feel like it. One thing I always recommend is to sign up for something that has a deadline that you're accountable for. So every week you have to deliver some comedy. So as some of you may know, I started doing a comedy podcast. I'm on this week. I just released my 10th episode yesterday. It's roughly, looks like my screen got lost, or I'm buffering. I need to come up with like 15 to 20 minutes of new comedy material every week and perform it on video and release it. That's a little deadline I set for myself. Incredibly good for me to do that. It's like I signed up for a new gym membership and I'm doing 2 hours in the morning and 2 hours a night, just like The Rock or just like Arnold Schwarzenegger, and realizing so much growth just by doing that. So sometimes if I'm late with the show and I'm finishing it, I'm not going to do my 10 ideas, but it's okay because I'm doing jokes and I'm writing material and I'm putting it out. If I don't have a project going, those 10 ideas are critical just for maintenance, I hope that makes sense and I hope that helps. Thanks to all of you for writing in your questions. And I really appreciate all of you who read my books and enjoy my videos and get a lot out of, my courses or any of my free material on the How to Write Funny website. It fills me with pure joy to know that I'm helping other people create funnier material to make this world a funnier place. We all need comedy. And, if I've got one thing to give from my years of experience doing this, it's the keys to the kingdom. It's like, here's how you do it. Here's the steps. And I'll exhaust myself just explaining those and talking people through it. And, oftentimes we're going to come back to the same stuff, but I liked these questions today because they sort of got at little nuances and details, because you can write down the rules and then somebody can look at them and try that and just have problems and not really make it work for them. And so I do appreciate the opportunity to step in and provide a little bit of guidance along the way for whatever little struggle you're having. And so I hope those have been helpful. And if you have any struggles, any of you watching, whether live or later on the replay, let me know. Put it in the comments. Send me an email at scott@howtowritefunny.com. And you can go to howtowritefunny.com to get all sorts of free resources for comedy writing. If you go there and you get some of that stuff and you're still struggling and you can't figure out how to proceed, or you're stopped up for any reason, just let me know. I'm here to help. I enjoy helping, and I love seeing the fruits of my labor come to fruition when people who take my classes or have read my books start really producing, and they sign up to do a show and they really put themselves out there, and they gain some traction, and they build a platform, and then they start making money doing it, and then pretty soon they're somebody that people are aware of, and they're really making a splash. They get paid a lot of good paid work. It's very rewarding, as I'm sure you can imagine. All right, everybody, thanks for watching. Have a great evening. Hey, Sherry likes fruit. Thanks for the comment. I'll see you guys in the computer. And if you want to join the Facebook group, the How to Write Funny Facebook group, that's at Facebook/group/How to Write Funny, I believe, to get some great feedback on any stuff you're working on. It's a great community of other people, professional and amateur comedy writers. They kind of run the gamut. Very supportive community, comedians helping other comedians. This is what we need. We don't need competition. It's not a zero-sum game. We can all help each other, and that raises all the boats. So take care, and I'll talk to you next time.